Here we are, live in 2023.
Happy New Year, James.
Happy New Year, Willem. Well, Happy New Year, ice cream for everyone.
Yes, there was. Yes, I mean, there's not really much separation between me and ice cream for everyone. It's mostly me. Best wishes. How were the holidays to begin with? Because you were hosting holidays. That was like
Oh,
where we left things off.
They were amazing. Yeah, we did, didn't we? There was that little bit just before the end of the year where loads of things were going to happen.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Are we streaming?
I believe
I just got a pop-up on my computer going.
Professionals. Are we streaming? Yes, I believe so.
Well, my computer decided to open and go live stream.
We had a viewer and a comment last time we streamed. Did you see that?
No.
I forgot to tell you. We have a comment of somebody who really appreciated our conversation. So sometimes somebody watches.
Okay.
Should be mindful of the fact that we're actually live.
Okay, we are live. It was just my computer being ridiculous as usual. So yeah, it was just that little bit between the end of the year and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. It was quite a while ago. So Christmas was amazing. We hosted 13 people around the tables. It was great. People cooked, we cooked, everybody ate, families. And Davina said this really cool thing. We've been together 20 years.
Wow.
And it's great everyone's here. Thank you for coming. We now feel like adults because we're hosting Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that kind of thing. And then the other big thing of the holidays was spending a lot of time in a good way letting go of 2022. Reflecting on what the year was, what we did, what we wanted, what we didn't do, all of that kind of stuff. And because I'm such a nerd,
yes,
I had I'm proud.
What did you do?
I'm kind of proud of this, and I don't know how I feel about this.
You're professing this in such a way that I'm like, oh my god, what has he done?
Well, every year we kept our completion of the year. I've got 2012s.
You've got 2012?
Completion of the year. Yeah, so I was able to go back.
You got 10 years of it.
We've got 10 years of it. So I was able to go back and look at what were the things we were thinking about 10 years ago. And yes, there have been huge things that have happened, but some of the stuff is the same. Some of the stuff that's really uplifting tends to be friends, family, and close relationships. The fundamentals, get those handled, and our money's
never handled. We can always do more stuff on.
Yeah, I mean, when I say handled, I don't mean like it ends. I mean be actively engaged in it. That's probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
If you're actively engaged in those areas, a lot of other stuff tends to work itself out. And then our financial situation is built and grown, and we're in a semi-comfortable position. We're okay.
Yeah, I mean, you've been in the same job for a while, and she has a new job at work. So,
and at the same time,
that's very unlike me. But yes, please.
And at the same time,
yeah,
there's some of the same concerns are still, and the same areas of things that we want to deal with are still there.
Yeah.
Like, this person in my life is a pain in the ass. How do I deal with it?
Same person or different person?
Same person. Or like, how can I make sure I make money from the things that I'm good at, or whatever it is? I'm like, so it was great that I had it 10 years ago, but at the same time, uncomfortable to see that some conversations and some things I'm doing haven't really progressed massively.
Yep.
That doesn't mean my life hasn't changed for the better. It has.
Yeah.
But
I know the feeling.
Do you know what I mean?
And I've not even gone in depth at looking at the 10 past years at all for this year, but
I just happened to do it. We also
it's great. It's really interesting to do.
It is. We sat in
I don't know that I have 10 years of that. I'm not sure. I don't think I have 10 years of formalizing like we have, but I'm glad I have it for the last few years.
It's so useful.
Look back at the last 2 years.
So useful. I can't.
And I didn't look back at my journal entries for the year. I just thought, you know what? I haven't done it throughout the year. It's going to take me too long. I just did a lot of pondering from memory, and I did look over my calendar quickly to make sure I hadn't forgotten stuff.
The calendar and the journal
I
are useful.
I didn't
But
go back through the journal entries. It was going to
just
take too long.
just flick and let your mind settle on something, and you'd be surprised. I find that kind of randomness really, really useful. And then we
It's
also
true.
went through our jar of awesome. We sat in Krispy Kreme and looked at our calendar. We did it properly. We went, and
It's great.
as a result, I'm really appreciative of you, of our conversations.
Oh, that I am very much so. Yes.
So I have so many great friends that I have so many different, varied, interesting conversations with. Like, it's really deepened, and that was one of the big things I wanted from last year. It's been really cool, really cool. I also feel very much not. Oh, not going to say not. I feel far less like an imposter in my job.
Okay.
Imposter syndrome is kind of that idea is much smaller, much smaller.
Right.
So it's been. And I know there's always something, right, that you want to do that you never do. But it was a great year. So this year, and what I wanted to do, I had great plans of rewatching our video from last year, and then I didn't do it.
Oh, that's a big one. But you did a lot. You did more than I have. I mean, I have, but not. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I didn't spend that much time during the holidays. Well, I was with. I had a really great break. I went down to the south of France. And we had a really nice Christmas with no particular massive drama, smaller committee.
Nice.
Nieces, and the 24th at my brother's, and the 25th at my sister's. Lots of gifts, chilling out, really good food, good wine, friends, reading, hanging out, a walk in the vines. And then my girlfriend joined for New Year's Eve weekend. And we had oysters by the seaside on Monday and came back.
Oh, wow.
And I really started planning and looking back at 2022. So we did a little bit during our call 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And then I did most of it between Tuesday, Wednesday, really.
I think what you've
but
started to create is, I was really inspired by what you put.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in more detail. But I went through, and it's good because I'm definitely using a lot of the stuff that we talked about together in your systems, and I'm refining mine, I guess, at the same time. So I went through. I didn't go through the journals. I thought, no, it's just. So my sections are on completing, which I don't. Yeah, no, I did. I wrote stuff for them. So on completing 2022, I wrote all the good stuff to celebrate and remember. So that's like I just went. I wrote a bunch of stuff there, which I could go over. And then I have another section that I called acknowledgements. Anything I wish I'd done, another section, didn't do enough of, regrets, things that didn't work out as well as I would have wanted. Observations and reflections on my journal entries, but yeah, I didn't really do that. About my lists. So I did do that. Look over my list, because I have a lot of lists. It's funny. And I'm formalizing and changing them a little bit for this year. So that meant I have a list. There's 5 lists. I was following stuff in 2022. List of movies and TV series, list of books, mangas, graphic novels, list of games, video games, list of cultural shows, live entertainments, trips.
Wow.
There's some crossover and stuff. So I'm reorganizing a little bit. And then I had a list of restaurants, eating out, food, and cooking, which I didn't really keep up, that one. Some of them were redundant or doubling over between live entertainment, restaurants, trips, or whatever. But looking at all the notes there, and stuff about the lists, and then I started creating new stuff and whatever. Reorganizing my lists, and then I thought, well, wait a minute, I have a lot of lists about entertainment, but I have nothing about work. Revenue, because as opposed to you, I don't have regular revenue, and that was playing straight into the theme for the year as well. And then for creating this year, then another section is reflecting on the creation motto and theme, stuff that I had written.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What was your last year?
Last year was perseverance with a dash of new.
And not 2, but 3.
Yes, never 2 without 3 was my motto, the proverb. never two without three, which, why not? And reflecting on what did I see in there was funny. It was just a lot of random thought, and that thought came back at a lot of funny moments. Both in, okay, well, I tried 2 times, we should try a third, or did this twice, let's do it another time, or this happened twice, maybe it's going to happen again, or paying attention to when it happened. Which I guess fit with the perseverance a little bit.
Yep.
But I'm not entirely sure what I took from that motto entirely. I think having fun with funny, I wrote, have fun with weird and random patterns. Don't stop at first or even second barriers. Keep it going if it seems interesting. I think that's what I take from it. And or just,
I think that's what we've done with creative sessions.
Huh?
I think that's what we've done with creative sessions.
It is a little bit, yeah. It is. Yeah, and then creating for the year, I had a first section which was pondering and preparation, just like noting down a lot of thoughts. What do I want for a wider theme and context? And I think the main leading thought that I can't remember if I said that at the last call, but I'm not sure. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. And then I looked at a bunch of quotes, proverbs, inspiration to finally settle on something. But 20, I think out of settling in Paris, the pandemic, things like that, the last 2 years had similar themes. And 2021 was about consolidation, 2022 perseverance with a dash of new. And then I also reread my Gallup Strengths report, which was a really interesting thing to do, just as while I'm reflecting on last year and looking at this year. And I thought, okay, this is an interesting thing on perseverance, with the idea that I needed to keep working at settling in Paris, to have regular revenue, to have regular work, to have regular contacts, to have friends, to have all that. But it also felt like not really inspiring anymore. And looking at my strengths, not really playing to my strengths, kind of feeling like I should, and I end the year with not really much more planning, organization, and or foresight into my revenue, into my work. It didn't end the way that I wanted, even though during the year I earned enough. I did all the fun stuff I wanted to. I could have, should have, would have earned more, to save more, to plan more, to be better prepared for even the end of the year and this year. All that to say that I was like, okay, you know what? Actually, rather than focusing on the nitty gritty and which feels like stuff that are really in the bottom of my strengths list. At the bottom of my strengths list, I have consistency and discipline and focus and things like that, which I'm like, which seem to be related to the area of like, let's organize things, be consolidated, persevere through it. And I thought, actually, those are not my strengths. It's not what I do. It's not who I am. Of course, I should have those things. But anyway, all that to say, I thought, actually, what I need and want is something that's more about, yes, I know that I need to keep doing contacts, developing clients, earn more money, be better settled in professionally. But what I really want is to think about what's further out in the future. Having ideas. So that's why the theme this year is creating the future. That's where I came up with the theme, was actually, you know what, I'm happiest and I'm at my best when I think about stuff about the future, whether they happen or not. And there's also like, yes, right now I do need to, as I said, to develop new contacts, work a bit better, blah, 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 all that stuff, but it's not super exciting. And I want to spend time thinking about like, what's out there? What do I want for the next 5, 10, 20 end of my life, years, end of my life? So that's where I came up with that one. So I thought creating the future inspires me. I like the idea of looking out there and having this year to be about, and maybe nothing else than just thinking about it, thinking about the possibilities, what I want, plotting. Now there is one thought specifically that is, I like what I'm doing. I am independent. I have a lot of freedom. I don't work that much. But I also have a lot of uncertainty around when the next piece of work is coming through. Settling into Paris has taken me a while. And the recurring thought that I've had, and I've had with other friends, conversations, I'm sure I talked about it with you and some other friends in common, is do I want to keep doing this until like for the next 5, 10, 20 years? Do I
You
see
mean your
this,
career?
what I'm doing now, the way I'm doing it now as a consultant,
Oh, I see. Okay.
in marketing
Yep.
strategy, if
Yep.
you
Yep.
will.
Yep. Yep.
Knowing that, or do I want to do something else? So that's what I'm thinking about. And possibly one of the ideas is maybe do I want to start a business that is about a specific product rather than advising others about their brand or their business? Now it is a business because I'm working as an independent, but I've already said I don't really want to grow it as an agency. I don't really want to do that. It doesn't inspire me to operate in this industry as an agency. I don't think. Maybe it might change my mind, but I don't think I want to do that. So anyway, those are the thoughts. And or maybe just be employed, perhaps. But I don't think I'd be very happy very long being employed. I think I would have a very hard time going back into just full-time employment and deal with. I don't know. It could happen to find something really interesting. It hasn't happened yet. But everything I hear about traditional French companies, I don't think I would fit very well. I've been freelancing for on and off for 10 years. Well, really full for 6 years. Enjoying my own time, managing my own schedule, not having to tell anybody or anything. So I think I would have a hard time if I found myself in the middle of internal politics and just having to be there because you need to be there. I don't know, maybe. But that said, if it was for an interesting project, company, people, perhaps. Anyhow, and then I thought, okay, well, what do I want for the motto? And that I took something that's quite pragmatic, and I was looking at this because it's part of my job, and I heard of the quote being said by a couple of other people that I follow. Have you ever seen Mark? Have you ever heard of Mark Ritson?
No.
I'll send you a video. Mark Ritson he works in my field. He's a very, well, famous in the field marketing consultant, British, lives in Australia, quite brash, a bit, he's both super smart and very, very good. And I think sometimes a bit, well, purposely created his character to be a bit brash, a bit provocative and a bit vulgar, not really vulgar. That's exaggerated, but he plays with a British good old boys. Like I come from middle, like working class environment.
Oh,
screw you guys.
Yeah,
we're here to make some money.
Yeah,
but not in a Gary Vee side of things. He's very smart. So just his background, and so I'll send you one of his talks. Super interesting, very, very interesting dude. And he's worked with very, very big brands all around the world. Very pragmatic on the way he puts things together. And he goes back to one of the simple tenets of strategy, which is the one of the quotes, which I should read from Michael Porter, a very famous consulting dude from where was he? Boston Consulting Group, I think. Anyhow, famous consultant dude. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do, which is also a reflection of the same thing. Sun Tzu pretty much says the same thing in The Art of War at some point.
That's very interesting. Just to add something to what you're saying, we followed the Tim Ferriss past year review thing. You look over your calendar and you make a list of all the things where you had awesome experiences. But at the same time, you look through your calendar and make a list of all the things where you had negative experiences, and you put the negative experiences on a list of what not to do.
Okay.
Like any of those things that are if they're going to come up, and then actively move away from them, and then schedule loads of positive things. Put in the good stuff. So one of my things is to go and see more live music this year. I don't care what it is, whether it's big, small, whatever, just live music.
Yeah.
So but that's really interesting.
How many concerts did you go to last year?
It was 3 or 4. It was more than I expected. Well, it's only when I look back in the year, I was like, oh yeah, we went to see Pearl Jam and the Pixies. We went to see, there was something else. It's gone out of my head, but I didn't
go see that many concerts. I think it's something for this year as well. But like,
I
would have a hard time. I would have a hard time going through what negative experiences are. Looking at my calendar,
I didn't have that many.
Do you have any?
But one of them is doing stuff where it's. I don't mind winging it. I don't mind like being open and going with the flow. But when it's totally like not planned, or we don't have an idea of what we're doing, I don't enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
I don't enjoy it. If we're going to go somewhere and then see what happens, that's fine. But if we don't even know where we're going or what's happening, I don't like it. That was one of the things.
Before you leave the house, or what?
I think it's before you leave the house, or I think it plays into
So is this based on something happened, you were out and you were wandering and didn't find something, or had a bad restaurant experience, or what?
No, I don't think it's a specific thing. I think it's more of a kind of underlying kind of like when I started to think about it, the times where I didn't enjoy myself was where we had no kind of, not no plan, but no purpose. There was no thought behind it, I guess. Even if it's a 2-minute conversation, it changes my experience of what happens.
Okay.
So, but I noticed that pattern. That was one of the things. So I'll always, wherever we're going to do something or whatever's going to happen, I'll be like, so what are we going to do? How's it going to go? Okay, fine. Let's go. But the not having that, I think that's quite a big thing for me. But everybody's different. But it was that idea of intentionally not doing stuff or not doing things, I think is really, really, really powerful and underrated.
Yes.
Because it's really easy to fill up your diary with loads of crap. Or just
yes. Well,
I find it is. But I find it really easy to end up doing stuff that I don't really want to do.
Okay.
And get pulled into things that I've not been agreed to. Okay, yeah. So there was things like where Davina would say, this is happening. I'm like, well, what? How? Why? I wasn't even didn't even know that was a thing. And I'd already gone off in a different direction. That used to really annoy me. So one of the things that we're doing is we've started a huge list of things that we want to do together and things we want to do as a family. And then we'll just pick and choose from the menu of, let's do this weekend.
That's great.
That's one idea.
Cool. I should have a conversation with my girlfriend this afternoon on some similar stuff.
Yeah,
just looking at the
it's awesome.
But she wanted to do it herself, and anyway.
We're coming up with ridiculous ideas. One idea we both came up with yesterday was, why don't we just get on a bus and sit on it and go through London till the other end of it, then get off, do some stuff there, and then get the same bus back all the way home.
I think that's a very cool idea.
And then we could do that.
I would probably go into planning and look at what's at the end of the bus stop and where is there an interesting restaurant. Where I find bit of that. Where I meet you there, it's funny, and I wonder if there's a little bit something going on with age. But I appreciate less not knowing where we're going to go if we're going out, and I want to know, even though. So the thing there is, there are really great restaurants. So I'm thinking about food because food is just always on my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. How many restaurants
there's tons of really great restaurants, but there's also really not great restaurants. And chances are, even though I love the idea of spontaneously discovering little like nuggets of restaurants, in reality, if you're wandering around and you're just looking for something, and this is where I get analysis paralysis. I'm like, there's too many options, and then I don't know what I want anymore. I could do that when I'm just looking for a spot for lunch somewhere. I do that all the time. So anyway, and then I'm going to end up mixing it between wandering around, looking at the Google Maps, looking at the general ratings, even though I don't think I should be following the ratings. But knowing where you're going to go. So that's why to try to alleviate that. That's why I fill my Google Maps with places that I want to go, or when I walk by randomly a restaurant that looks really good, but it's not the time for eating or anything, I'll keep it on the list. But then it have a funny thing, you never know when you're going to wander back that way anyway, but it doesn't matter. But I think I used to want to have more spontaneity around that, but now I want to target specific places that really sound like they're really good. Equally, actually, part of the other side of that is like, well, I could just be open to other things. Like last night, a friend joined when I was just as I was supposed to go home, but he's soon leaving Paris, so I wanted to see him. We had a drink, and he kept talking about food, and I was like, well, I just wanted to have a quick meal, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I'm starting the year with like, really, I should make work and sign contracts rather than spend a lot of money. We, of course, he was paying for everything. So it was late night, so we went to a bistro near my place, and I had a preconceived idea that it was not going to be great, but it's open. And it wasn't that great. But on the other hand, I wouldn't have tried it, and I'm glad I did, because it's an institution. It's a cafe that's been there forever. It's very close to my house. I only had been there for coffee once, and I thought, oh, it's a bit overrated and expensive. It looks good because it's a big old cafe. But so yeah, I'm glad I tried it. It was good to have food at late night, and he bought the food. But
wasn't that great?
I don't even know what I was saying anymore. Yeah.
Well, I think you're talking about
to be open to go with the flow, even though it's not necessarily what I would have wanted or picked. As the other side of
doing stuff and then finding it's not great is part of the process, of course. Because how would you know what not to do unless you try it and then you go, okay, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So you were saying your theme about, you had that quote from Porter. That's kind of what you were developing. You're developing.
Yeah. So even it's funny because I saw that the structure I developed is I have a theme for the year, a context or flavor, I called it.
Of course.
Arguably, you could say they're the same thing. The theme and the context. It's just adding more complexity, but I wanted to have all those ideas that I listed, so I just found headers for them, which is what I do generally. What I like this whole thing is it's really like doing my job for the year.
Yeah,
it's a positioning strategy for the year.
Yeah,
and the motto is the motto is the quote from Porter. So the essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. So that's a little bit more pragmatic. It's keeping me in mind. So it's kind of the other way around than last couple of years. Last couple of years, I had a theme that was kind of very like, okay, we got to work. This one, the theme is generally, okay, we've got to think out to the future, but the motto is remember, it's about what you don't do or what you do, what you don't do. Keep focused.
Okay. So what other does that mean you know what you're not going to do?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
No, and of course, ironically, then planning lists and giving myself goals of all kinds, and I need another. I have 5 lists, 6 lists. I realize I need more.
What's number 6?
So, let me see. The lists are it's not really a list. The 6th one.
This is for 2023. Okay. You've updated
2023. It's so the lists are. Where are my lists? It's a very long.
Is this in Rome?
It's in Rome.
Okay.
It's a very long note with a lot of bullet points, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nested lists.
Interestingly, again, slight tangent, slight aside.
Yeah.
Evernote now tells you how many links to one note you have.
Oh yeah.
So backlinks. I haven't quite
how does that work? I don't even know how backlinks work in Evernote anymore.
So you used to be able, you can very easily link one note to another.
Oh, you can,
right?
Okay,
like a hyperlink. Very, very easy. But what you don't always know is when you open a note, how many notes had linked to it. So they've got a new thing where there's a little number that appears in the corner of how many notes are linked to that note.
Okay.
And I've only just noticed it, but as you know, I'm an Evernote fan. And
one of my things for the year as well is also to look out to changing possibly. I have I wanted to try Obsidian. I haven't really tried it properly. I looked at some videos, I downloaded it, but I left it. I opened OneNote. I didn't really use it properly. And I have 2 years left to my 5-year subscription to Rome. And I kind of already know I'm unlikely to renew it, particularly at that price. And it doesn't seem like they're adding a lot of new stuff to the software or stuff that I am aware of or use. So anyhow, the lists are, I thought I had them written somewhere. Let me look here. So
Have you
22, so it's pretty much the same. I have a list of games, a list of books, a list of like games, books. Wait, let me
Did you
see this.
separate manga and graphic novels?
The same, it's on the same page, if you will.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. So a list of entertainment, list of food and drink, list of games, books, and movies. And then the one I added is, well, actually, wait a minute, because this is all well and good that I keep listing and having goals for entertainment, but where am I getting the money to do all this stuff? As an independent, I don't have a regular income. So I thought, wait a minute, maybe I'll write a list and start planning. And that's, I started doing that yesterday, because I was like, well, wait a minute, how much did I earn last year? How much do I want to earn? What am I projecting? I should really do some work on that. And this morning I woke up and thought, well, wait a minute, I have nothing about exercising. Maybe I should.
Health.
I have notes about being healthy, but I'm not generally. And that's funny on what not to do. Exercising is not on my radar. And I am saying this because even though I did think and say, like I always do, like that I should be exercising and I should be losing weight, I just opened Reddit this morning and I saw a question saying, hey, people of Reddit, for those who don't exercise, why? The top answer with 12,000 upvotes was, I'm starting tomorrow, promise. Or something like that.
Wait, but you were kind of getting into something, and you started, you were walking and you were biking.
Oh, I'm always walking and cycling. So I have a minimum. I'm always walking and cycling. That's good. But I don't have any regular physical exercise. I weighed myself this week and it's scary, which I know. I'm growing a lot fatter than I'm comfortable with, and I'm very much heavier than I'm comfortable with. So yeah, I was running for a little bit, and this is my pattern: is I take up some activity that I do for a couple of months in the year, and then I stop.
So why don't you just pick 6 different activities, do for a couple of months, and have it across the year?
That's a good idea. I think that's a really good idea.
I'll run for 2 months, then I'll like do weights for 2 months, and then get bored of that, and then do something else and do something else.
I think that's a great idea. I might actually do that, because I don't have a plan just yet for that.
Okay, cool.
How about you? What's your theme stuff? How did you create it?
We pick a theme. That's okay. I like it. We picked a theme. We pick a theme every year.
Yeah.
And 2022 was creativity, opportunity, progress, and being at home wherever we are.
Okay.
That, when we sat down and looked at everything, fulfilled. I think the ultimate expression of that was hosting Christmas, which was not what we expected at the beginning of the year. So like that was pretty much. And then I had things about my contribution, my family, and about my health. Those are the things I picked. And I'm healthier now at the end of, as we move into 2023 than I was at the beginning of 2022. Health was a big thing for me last year. And then this year, we were debating and like discussing. We weren't sure what we were going to pick and what the theme should be. But a word that kept coming up as we were talking through the end of 2022 was compassion. And then we're also talking about what do we want next? Like this 2022, health-wise, both of us have been in a good place. We've been able to do a lot more. And Davina's job has been great. Her health has been great. So we've been able to think and actually plan and do things a lot more than in a lot of other years. So the other thing we picked is adventure.
That's cool.
So we've got compassion and adventure, but then we've got 2 other things. Now, one of the things, I think I've shared this with you, how my grandmother used to write, or still writes, on my birthday cards and Christmas cards, have a prosperous new year, or a prosperous year for you, or wishing you prosperity. And when I started to think about, well, what does prosperity actually mean? It actually means being materially well off, financially well off. I was like, okay, well, I know my experience. I know what I'm good at as a teacher. I'm much clearer about my effectiveness and my contribution as a teacher. But prospering from something I create, I think I've shared this with you as well. I get a lot of thanks from ex-pupils, and it's very moving and it's cool. But like, I want money. I want some kind of, but no, it's not about money for the sake of it. It's about something I create, something I do, I get money for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realize how much I am like my dad.
You're like or unlike?
Like my dad. My dad's
you've said several times you're following what he said you should be doing.
I know exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
As in having a regular job, save for retirement, all the things I'm not doing that I'm like, I really should do that.
I know. So when I hear you say about you create your income, you literally create it.
Yeah.
From nothing, you make it happen.
Yeah. And it's both really rewarding and it's also a big weight sometimes.
Yeah. Prosperity is another theme we picked.
All right, great.
So
but wait, how did you, so just on finishing the last thought that you had, where was ultimately was the link when prosperity and you realizing that you wanted to create something? Do you mean like creating a business, or do you mean you don't know, or just?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know, something where,
because you could have prosperity with what you have now, which you probably do.
Yes.
But then how do you define prosperity aside from having a lot of material? Is it because you want a Lamborghini? What is
that? I don't know. I don't know yet. That's the exploration of this year. So how we created 2023 was, the year is about creating adventure, compassion, and prosperity.
I really like it.
And healthy living.
Good.
And then
I think you're already examples, I think you're paragons, examples of healthy living and an amazing couple, or maybe the exception that confirms the rule. All right, well, I think everybody's kind of messed up in their couple, aside from possibly James and Davina. I'm not sure.
Well, I think we're probably pretty open about what we're messed up about, but it doesn't stop us, and we're we like being an example for other people. And then this whole thing about having specific goals, yes, and sometimes I feel very tied to it, a bit like you're saying. I get very focused on it and I miss all the other cool stuff that's around me. So I've been posting semi-regularly about teaching, and I'm getting good responses from it. I'm like, but this isn't hard for me to just write a ranty piece about teachers and teaching. I don't find this very difficult. Why am I not doing it a bit more? And my colleagues and ex-pupils really, really like what I'm posting. So I'm like, I'm just going to do more of that then, because it's not hard for me.
Yeah.
Why have I been trying to do something about some random area or whatever it is and make it really hard for myself? Why don't I just do more of what I like?
Yeah.
Or what comes naturally to me?
Actually, in that respect, going over your strengths again, it could be interesting, because you'll probably find some of what you're just saying right now. In the same way that I was like, you need to do more of playing to my strengths that I actually enjoy. Which then the other thought is also that I probably need to work with other people more.
You have said that. Yeah,
because I really don't have a lot of my strengths that are very on the strengths domains, just for anybody, but you know them. I only have one out of my top 10 that is about executing, and that one's responsibility, and it really only plays and works and then all the rest, strategic thinking, relationship building, it works when you're doing it on other people or with other people. Now, I could do strategic thinking for myself, of course, and I do, but in the same way that I have value as a strategist, if I'm helping somebody else do their strategy. So anyhow, I think that's, which is another reason why I'm thinking out to the future. I'm on it would be great if I started a business to have a partner to do it with. Like most businesses have two people that bounce off of each other and have complementary strengths. So anyhow, so I was just thinking of that.
Everyone
which
knows
I've said before.
Steve Jobs, but people forget Steve Wozniak.
That was, exactly. So and somebody actually told me that this week, that there's always a was to the Steve Jobs, and
there's always a was to the Jobs. That sounds cooler. It's true. Who was it for Gates?
I don't know.
Oh, there was another dude. I just can't remember his name, but definitely was. But was
I'm not
Jobs
sure about Elon Musk, but that's a whole other ballgame. Or Jeff Bezos. I don't know. Anyhow, or Branson. Actually, it's another interesting one. I don't know who his partners were.
It sounds like it could make a good strategy post.
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah, perhaps.
And
So
then
yeah, so but did you keep up? So did you still set some goals or
I
less
did
or not?
what I
Or how
did.
did you?
Yeah, I picked three like we've been
Mhm.
picking. So I picked three, Davina picked three, and then we picked three together. And
Okay.
then, but the difference is this time I had a kind of a themey kind of thing. I haven't quite got my specifics, but we've broke it down a bit more to habits that we can do regularly.
And those habit those okay, because the goals that just something very specific, like I want to lose 10 kilos, or
So
something
yeah, yeah,
wider,
yeah.
more thematic, or just
I'll give you a bit of both. So I'll give
okay.
you an example. One of mine is having power with the way the world is,
Yeah,
and then
that's where I was like
yeah, that's the themey bit, and then the specific is maintain an average 16% body fat for 2023.
Okay, that's very
And then that I have a habit, like I do a daily exercise routine. I
sorry.
fast most days at least 16 hours. And Davina and I do a weekly plan. If we
That's
don't
really
do
good.
our,
I did one day of fasting this week and realized how not hungry I was, which I was like, oh, this is not good. I eat way too much. I knew it.
do you know what the magic ingredient is? Coffee.
For fasting?
It doesn't break your fast.
Oh yeah, no,
Black
I have
coffee.
coffee. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't break a fast. Yeah.
So I start usually about 8 o'clock and then I'll eat at about 12 and it's not a problem for me. It's trippy because it's shocking how much food. I mean, I love food and we love going out and we love eat. We had crosstown donuts yesterday because we had a voucher, and it was so good. But I feel so much better from fasting. That was what I got from 2022.
Mm.
So, but that I know if I do that regularly, that's going to fit into feeling a lot better and the healthy stuff, which will, it'll. The key takeaway from 2022 is if I have the habits, the tiny little things that I do regularly, I know if I do them, it's going to fulfill on something bigger.
Yeah.
The trick is to pick the good habits. I haven't done that for my other two.
Yeah, it's a good point. I haven't done that in general. It's funny. I didn't really set up wider goals besides the general theme. And I have I do not smaller goals, but the lists, just which is the number of books I want to read, for example, the number of
So I've picked
movies.
20 this year.
Okay, so you're going
books.
down.
And
What
I
did
just
you do
finished
last
one.
year? 12 or
14 it was.
okay.
And I just finished one yesterday.
Okay,
I just finished, which I think is an awesome book and everybody should read actually. It's called Sway. It's all about unconscious bias.
okay.
Very, very interesting, very all referenced, very, very well put together and researched.
And you enjoyed the Dresden Files. You read the first tome of the Dresden Files.
So good. I read the first one.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
It's fun, right?
At first I was reading it going, this is terrible.
Yes. Yeah. And the first one's not that great. He gets much better at writing them as
and
they
then
go.
I was like, the writing isn't great, but I was like, I can't stop reading it. I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
What happens to him? Who is this guy? And his character, he's kind of developed, but then I'm really intrigued. How did he end up like this? Why is he like this? Well, how come what does it mean to be a wizard? And then I'm like, okay, I just like all this stuff. It's really good.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
It's really good.
Yeah. I had the same kind of thoughts. I'm like, well, this is not that great. And I remember I read the two first volumes, not back to back, but like close to one another. And then I was like, I heard a lot from other friends who were like, this is awesome. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I like it. So, but I'll just kind of move on to something else. And a few years later, I circled back when I was playing the role-playing game, which is actually being published on YouTube. It's in French, but yeah, you can see me play a role-playing game in the world of the Dresden Files.
Oh, wow.
So I started reading again, and then I couldn't put them back down. That's why I keep raving about it the last 2 years. And it gets better and better. And they're all like crazy page turners that you read in 3 days, and they're just super enjoyable. They're just fun.
It's really fun read. It's really good, and
they're fast paced, and the theme is always the same. As in, he's in deep shit from the very beginning, and he's just like, you're like, how the hell is he going to get out of this?
That's exactly. He's so good. And he gets out by his wit and his skill and his natural kind of wizardry, not from
and sometimes sheer force. He's also he's a brute.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he's funny. He's just sheer brute force. Most of it.
I like
luck.
it a lot. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
No, it really holds you together. And as they really develop the character, the background, really awesome characters, and
Okay.
the world, the whole world, the plots,
The
and he just
bar.
develops arc.
The bar he goes to with
Yeah,
the
the bar
guy
he goes to
that's
is
just,
awesome.
uh,
It's really cool. It's very, very cool. No, it's a cool little universe. It's very well done as a serialized story, like a TV show.
Mm.
What I mean by that is that you develop and there's stuff going on in the background. There's arcs. There's characters that come back from one book to the next. There's like a really clear evolution. There's stuff in the background that shapes up little by little that you're like, oh, there's a major kind of story that's being developed over time. But still with each one of the stories has a self-contained adventure within it. It's really great. And I read the I think the 17th just before Christmas. And again, I couldn't put it down. Just was reading late at night.
Is it complete? Is 18th the last
No,
one?
that's
or
the
something?
thing. He's not finished.
Oh,
Which is why I've slowed down. I'm like, I'm going to read them. I only have 2 or 3 left. But the whole story's not finished.
It did remind me of that TV series Lucifer. It's very similar kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So there is a TV show of the Dresden Files. I think it was made by Sci-Fi. It's really terrible. Bad. It's terrible, and there was only one, and it was canceled after 1 season. It's a shame. It's all cinematic. It's done to be like I can only hope somebody adapts it later down the line, but we'll see what they do with Dungeons and Dragons this year. It's going to be, I don't know.
Now I'm saw
expecting
a poster
it to be
for
dreadful.
That. I saw a poster.
You didn't see the trailer?
I haven't seen the trailer. Out. What is it based on? Is it
Dungeons and Dragons? It's based on, huh?
Just like the game?
Yeah, the game.
Okay.
The game. And I think the world is based on the world of what is it called? Forgotten Realms, I think.
I wondered if it was the cartoon, if it was based on the cartoon, because
no. It's based in supposedly based in the same spirit of playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is there's a ragtag band of adventurers that are pulled together for some deal, and the subtitle is Honor Amongst Thieves, so I think they're thieves.
Okay.
I am cautiously optimistic, but I am also expecting it's going to be dreadful.
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought it would have been quite cool if it was based on the cartoon, which I used to love.
So I also heard rumors that they want to relaunch that, but I don't know.
I love that cartoon so much.
I loved it. It was awesome.
And it just, I don't know why. I think I just like stories. So Dresden Files.
So 20 books
on my books. 20 books for me. And honestly, that book you recommended looks so good.
Everybody Lies? Yeah. I realized I had it when I should start another book. And I was like, oh, I have that on my Kindle. And I heard a lot of great things about it. And a few months ago, I worked with a company that does that. And their competitor, ex-Googlers that were referencing the book. And they created their own business after having read this guy's book. And basically they have a company and they're selling the idea of spotting early weak signals based on people's search patterns for trends in new products, specifically within the cosmetics industry in their case.
The guy who wrote it looks quite interesting too.
It sounds really interesting, yeah.
He's an economist, isn't he? Economist or something.
Yeah, I read the preface and the intro of the first chapter yesterday. Well, I had read the preface before the end of the year, but anyway, yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm already enjoying the beginning of it. It's really cool.
I need to finish Bullshit Jobs. I still haven't finished that. That's
going
to be my next thing. No, I'm going to finish that.
That was one next. I couldn't put down. I mean, it was not as much as almost close to the Dresden Files. I want to read more Graeber. So I put you want to read Debt, don't you, or something? Yeah, either his big book. I want to read The History of Debt, or I might start with there's one about the history of humanity or something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay.
Anyhow, I said 24 books. Well, my Goodreads challenge is at 55, but I said 24 books plus 31 mangas, graphic novels.
Okay, fine. And then what about
last year? I ended up. I had separated goals between books, large and small graphic novels, but that was too annoying to figure out
Yeah.
and decide what was big or not. So
Yeah.
it was just what I said, just mangas. And I read a lot of mangas at the end of the year at my brother's place. So I ended up at 53 last year, which was my goal of 22 books, 9 nonfiction and 13 novels. The last book of the year, which turned out to be a little bit of a slog. I thought it was a tiny book.
Was the Anarchism one.
Which was really good though. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. But it was a bit like, okay, I want it to be done now.
Have you got a number for movies and films?
Yeah, pretty much. So I ended up, I wanted to watch more movies last year. So I did watch more than the previous year, but still it's 49 movies, not that much. So I thought, okay, well, I might as well make it 52. So the equivalent of one a week.
Yeah.
And I went to the cinema 11 times last year, which was more than the previous year, but still not great. And I thought, well, I might as well just say 12. So while I didn't give that a specific goal, I thought, okay, well, I still watched a lot of TV series last year. And I want to, again, put more effort into playing more games and reading more, watching more movies, feature films, rather than TV shows. I'll still watch some TV shows. I don't need a goal for that, but
Yeah, The Menu.
That was great. I thought that was my top of the year. There's a few movies that I haven't seen in terms of best movies, but I really enjoyed it. Did you watch it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Did we talk about it?
I think we might have. I absolutely loved it. We also watched, and we wish we'd seen it in the cinema. Glass Onion.
I heard it was pretty good. I was talking about it with friends yesterday. I haven't watched it yet.
Really good, really good. Although I don't know where they're going to go next. If he's going to make a third one, or I don't know if he should. I'm just unsure about that. Because the first one was great and was kind of a sleeper out of like, what? Oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
But the second one, you kind of expect, there are things you're expecting, and then you go, oh, okay. So it's well done.
Okay.
That's good. And you're kind of making me think about making a list of all the films, because I don't have a list of the films. And
I think one of my things for this year is also going to be to, which I'm bad at, to write reviews and notes for movies and books, which I don't do systematically, and I feel I should.
If you did that, it would be one of those things you probably shouldn't be doing when you could be writing about work-related stuff.
Also true. But some of the books are work-related stuff. But I shouldn't spend too much time, and even just writing something rather than nothing would be probably good. Another interesting thing that circled back is writing, and I didn't achieve my goal of finishing a short story.
I didn't finish the short story either.
I could count the first draft, but I wanted to finish the second draft before the end of the year, and I did not do that. And this is just like you about creating a business. This is me on writing for years and years and years, and I don't write anything complete. I don't really finish it. I do finish articles. My main conclusion from a work perspective, and I'm still questioning this one, is I need to do something else for my client development and my business network development in France. And because what I do usually doesn't work. What I've been doing for the past 3 years, and it's not the first time I say this, and I'm sure I've talked about it with you, so I'm repeating myself.
Yeah.
But the normal routes of finding work, clients, and contracts have not really worked in France the way they have before elsewhere.
Okay.
And so I need something else, and I'm not sure what that is. Well, although I'm pretty sure that one of the keys is writing in French. I need to do a lot more in French. So in terms of developing a reputation and being read, I need to do that in French. Even though it's annoying, but in reality, the people who have told me that you don't really need to do that, it's not true. And then I'm left. The inquiry is, I know finding a jobs for me and clients is a needle in a haystack. So how do I build a better magnet? And I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is just yet. And I had lunch with a client from last year who's asking me like, well, how do you introduce yourself, or how do other people in the field who are good, how do they do it? And I think the combination of things that I don't really have, that of other people that are successful, even like the guy I mentioned earlier, Mark Ritson, is a combination of a lot of solid experience in one field, a length of time with a couple of companies with high level, like ending up on high level and senior, which I don't really have.
Okay.
Only because I've moved so much.
Yep.
And second, well, a lot of doing the work of building your reputation through writing, through talks, through etc., which is also the talks and being invited, writing columns, is also because you have spent a lot of time at X, Y, Z companies as an employee. So there's a mix of to do two of those things. So I certainly know that I need to do more on writing and reputation, and to do that in France, I need to do that in French, I'm pretty sure, or more of it in French. And the reason why I'm talking about a needle in a haystack is, and the same client said, well, just, I mean, whatever you do, you have a lot of competition. I receive emails and messages every day on LinkedIn of this person randomly just saying, well, oh, you seem interesting. Do you need help in your marketing communications? Whether they are or not the same kind of people I am, doesn't matter. Ultimately, he just sees them as like all these people looking. Noise, exactly. And I would just be adding to the noise, because the thing is, I don't know who needs, and this is another thought which I've talked about before on reflecting about the nature of my business altogether, which I do enjoy, but you don't need a new marketing strategy every day. Once you're done, and once I'm done working with you, I do enjoy the variety of working with somebody else. So another direction could be, or should be, and I've been avoiding that forever, is to specialize in something specific so that people remember what to call you for. So that could be an industry sector, or it could be like, I'm about virtual reality, whatever, but so yeah, anyway, all those are things I'm thinking about. But I do like the variety of the types of stuff that I worked on. But ultimately, as I said, the needle in the haystack is like, how do you identify who has a possible need at the moment they have it? Because usually, and I was talking about that with a friend yesterday when we were just bouncing back and forth. He was trying to identify the same thing for himself. He's also a consultant. Because he was like, well, how did this client come to you? And I'm like, well, ultimately, I think my positioning is I'm called when there's like a need that is not understood. It's like they're looking for somebody that doesn't exist for a need for something they don't understand. Wait, let me call Willem, because he's going to sort it out. And they need it in English.
Okay.
In this case, right. So they want international. I don't understand what it is, and the profile they're looking for doesn't exist. I'll call Willem. Which is weird. So it's like, so wait a minute, which is interesting.
Is that his own kind of niche thing, or what?
It's very niche, but how do I make sure that I'm known for that? And then my friend was like, well, how did they know to call you for what they needed? Yeah, I'm like, but they didn't know what they needed. That's why they called me. And it's not they, it's the intermediary that I work with suggested out of what they said they needed. She was like, well, actually, what you don't need this. You need to have somebody help you figure out what you're doing.
That's Willem. I think there's something in that. I think there's something.
There is, but then how do you process and explain that?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's part of the stuff I'm doing.
That's great. That's
no, it's funny because I had a conversation with the
Willem's the blind
Friday,
spot guy.
and so there's a conversation about working with a bunch of startups and formalizing some of my work as process. And she was like, I have somebody else to do the brand platforms. I'm like, well, that's what I do. She's like, oh, really? Is it? I'm like, well, yes, you hired me several times to do that with your people. Oh, but I thought you were doing, but where do you, so you have weird conversations on like, where do you start your process? I'm like, I don't know, it depends what people need. I don't know.
I like the idea of Willem, the blind spot guy. Yeah. I think that's quite cool. Actually, there's one other thing.
It doesn't help me target. How do I
don't know how you do it. But hang on, this is what you do. You've got to do it on yourself, haven't you?
Yeah. And it's over and over again, because it's not the first time I have this kind of thinking.
That's very funny. There is something else that we didn't mention, which happened in 20. We've kind of skirted around it. that you're now in a relationship.
That's the biggest thing of last year. That's my the dash of new.
That's quite a big.
It's a very big
dash of new.
It is, but it was like, well, I guess that's the dash of new.
That's a paradigm shifting huge thing, because now you're like, oh
yeah, I'm in a relationship. It's a very, very big difference. So that's a lot of my 2022 is really, even though I'm talking about work, is not about work. Which actually, if you think about it, most of my years are not about work.
Health, relationship.
But yes, I'm in a relationship, and this is something that I've wanted for a very long time, and I am in a relationship, which is awesome.
So when are you going to the US?
Oh, I don't know. Do you mean
to meet the family?
Oh yeah, I don't know. We haven't planned that.
But is it because? Okay,
I think we're going to talk about it this afternoon, to be honest.
Oh, okay. In my opinion, and Davina agrees with me. Actually, we both agree on this. If you haven't got something that is keeping it, you know this too, keeping it growing, it will die. If you don't keep creating, well, okay, whatever it is, if it's a plant or whatever. But in our thing, we think that in relationships, if it's not, you're not creating or moving forward or whatever it is, then it will stagnate and become really hard. That's the basic kind of idea. But you know that. So the 2023 is going to be super interesting.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you picked the Michael Porter quote. You also, you phrased it differently when I saw it on WhatsApp. It was plotting and scheming, and
that's the flavor or context.
Could you do the whole thing?
Yeah, sure.
Where is Please, I'd like to hear it again, so I can steal bits.
Okay, so theme is creating the future. The context is ambitious plotting, scheming, and strategizing. And as I said, it's both the same thing. And the quote is, the essence of strategy is choosing what not to do, from Michael Porter.
I don't think that the theme and the whatever, I don't think they're the same. I think they're different.
No, they are different. I wanted to have all of that together. It's fine. You have your theme with 4 different things. It's just, it goes against the grain of but it's you need the idea of positioning or context or strategy is exactly what I just said. It's choosing what not to do. So you can't be everything. You can't have everything as a theme.
Yeah.
And even just pushing it down to 3 or 4. Usually the recommended max is we go with rules of 3. So don't have more than 3 things that you should be about. Like ideally 1 really, but I
like it. The future.
So I have a list of food because I wanted to be cooking stuff. So my brother had made some hot sauce, and I've been talking about making hot sauce for a while. So I'm going to make some hot sauce.
What, really? How do you make hot sauce?
You take chilies, ferment them, and then ground. There's multiple ways to do it. This is just one simple way. Ferment chilies. So I want to do some fermentation. I want to make some kimchi. I want to make some. My sister had made some kimchi last year, and she has a really good book about fermentation. So that's one of my book reads for the year. That's on my radar, is to read the book about fermentation. The preface was from Michael Pollan, who's another person I have on my radar. He's writing really good books. Have you read anything from him?
No,
I haven't really.
He crops up in documentaries, but doesn't he talk about omnivores and eating well and all that kind
He's done books about a bunch of different stuff. He's done one about psychedelics, one about several about food, another one about multiple types of topics. He's just a best-selling author and really good journalist, I think, as well. Really good, I think. I don't really know, but anyhow, so how do you make hot sauce? There's a lot of different kinds of recipes, but essentially the one I want to go for to begin with is you ferment the chili. So anything fermenting when it comes to vegetables, pickling, etc., is putting vegetables, chilies in this particular case, in a salt brine solution. So it's water with 2%, and just make sure that the stuff is in there and let it ferment for a few days. And then pull it out and mix everything with some garlic and, if you want some vinegar possibly, but the acidity comes from the fermentation, not necessarily vinegar, but you can also add some vinegar depending on the recipe and the stuff that you want. Salt and pepper and or not even, and then mix it all together and strain it and taste it.
Wow. I'd like to
So I
try
want to
it.
play around with condiments. So because we talk about
You
condiments and
play
food
around
with my
with
brother.
condiments.
Yeah. All right. So there's I'm going to say it. So there's things I'm hesitant to talk about live. So it's
Sure.
just
I understand
like
that.
the topic of a relationship. And this idea of a business, but also there's so few people actually watching this that but then again it's still live. So anyway, I'm just going to say this one. So I'm thinking out for the future and a business. I floated the idea of creating a business with my brother and a food related business. So a food brand, making a food brand and making food, possibly condiments. So yeah, mustard or hot sauce or something like that, not sure. But we both like the idea, and my brother did say that, you know, we do have complementary skill sets. He cooks and I do the business to begin with, and I can help with cooking, but I'm not good at it or fast. But
what was the water brand you told me about that I showed the kids at school?
Liquid Death?
Free Liquid Death, just pure brand. They were just like, what the hell are we seeing here? And I was like, it's pretty mad.
Yeah, it is pretty mad. But yeah, I'm circling back to I like the idea of creating a brand rather than advising others about theirs.
That's really interesting.
And I really like the idea of having an actual product, and food is one of the things that I love. And when I talk about what I do, everybody's like, well, what's wrong with you? Why are all your brothers and sisters in food and you're not? And there's another idea is that my brother ends the lease on his restaurant in a year and a half, and he has to start thinking about what he's doing next. And he's been thinking about that for a while, and he's tired of the restaurant. So he might change location, but it's difficult to find another location. And he's also getting tired of just opening restaurant and bar holding and everything that goes with it. And I was like, well, what if we did a different kind of business that, you know, is building a brand that makes food? And it's not an area where there's a lot of margins and money and profit, much less than in consulting, to be honest. But there's a lot of great food, and you can have fun with it, and have fun with the brand and make t-shirts and shit. I don't know. And possibly have a you know, little bar counter, make our own beer, and open a few nights a week for after work drinks, like in the same way that a brewery has a tap room, you know. I mean, this is all just completely
and a podcast and a YouTube channel and a whole thing and oh, that would be so much fun.
Yeah, it would be, and it would be hard work. But I really like the idea of
the craft, the getting into it, and the creativity and the enjoyment of putting together a product that's good.
Yeah, exactly, and something that I'm really proud of this thing that we're putting out there that people enjoy. And when I think about all the different kinds of stuff of what kind of business I would like to be in, food circles back a lot. I mean, the idea from last year after reading Free to Learn is creating a school, which I love the idea, was super inspiring. But then in practice, I've never really been a teacher. I'm a teacher now, but it's not that I couldn't because I'm not a teacher, but legally, the environment of creating a school, being responsible for children, the fact that the school is compulsory in France, it's very complex. And I'm like, this is probably going to be like politically, legally very complicated. It's not even an area where I have a lot of business, whereas I would feel a lot more legitimate and probably just a lot easier and more fun and interesting. Not more fun and interesting. It would be fascinating to create a school, but the more likely candidate is to make a food brand.
Yeah, because it's very similar to what I said before about doing something that's I'm already doing, that I find easy, that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and looking for, and if I have a product, whether it's a hot sauce, a mustard, whatever it is, and I'm like, I have this mustard, awesome. This is what I sell, this is what the positioning is a lot easier to place than, wait a minute, how do I talk about myself when people call me because they don't know what they need?
Who are you going to call? Yeah.
Well, like, I'm like, all right, describing what I do. And people.
Oh, I see. So you mean like, okay, you created this product and you've done all this with that product. You can also hire me to do this for your product.
No, I was just saying it's a lot easier to position
if you have your
than to position what I do in strategy.
Okay.
And even the conversations I was having with my friend yesterday and with you on like what's the best way to place myself, even in the conversation I had with a client, 2 different conversations with clients, and then it was like, oh, I should maybe reorganize my LinkedIn to explain better what I do, which is true on one hand. On another hand, it doesn't matter. People don't read it and people don't know what I do. It doesn't matter. I always have the recurring question, like, what do you actually do again? I don't even really know. Because really, in truth, what I do is I help people figure out things when they don't know. But how do you sell that? Oh, what do you do? Well, I help people figure out them when they don't know what to do next. And people are like, but I don't need that. Except when they do. So again, so I'm circling back on like, okay, how do I explain that?
Needle in a haystack.
Needle in a haystack, which is why people like Mark Ritson, it depends. Like the people who are really successful, Mark Ritson is like, well, this is all about making money. You need to position it because the role of marketing is to position yourself to make a lot of money. Ultimately, that's what he says.
Yeah.
Which is true also. But, anyhow, mustard would be easier to, it wouldn't necessarily mean it's easier to place and sell, but it's still easier to say, well, these are the values of quality and taste it. And then, do you want mustard? Yes, I want mustard. Great. There's a need for that. It's more easy to identify. Now, it wouldn't be easy to have a business, but yeah, again, even if it never happens, I like the idea, and I've talked about it before, of having a brand and a product and working and developing mine rather than advising and telling other people how they should run their business, which is what I do now. Even though technically there's a lot of money in what I do, but I don't work that much. But I'm not getting that many calls either. So it's just, I don't know. And then goals on books and movies and some exercising. And then I don't really have any other like 3 core goals like you have. I didn't really do that.
Yeah, I got having power the way the world is, prospering from my contribution, and expressing love for family, friends, and people, of which conversations with you, with our mutual friends, with any other friends are a big part. That's like that. That's one of the habits. Having something scheduled where I'm speaking to you and we're just like chatting and broadcasting.
That's really great. I mean, it's a very much the last few years this has become a really important kind of pillar in my life, and energizing, appreciating those conversations that we have. It's great.
Yeah, it's almost a good place to end. I did want to ask you a question.
Oh yeah.
So we have a Switch, and I would like, at the risk of
I've been getting back into playing,
at the risk of losing a lot of time, I do want to play some good games that.
Oh, you should.
Where the learning
I want to play more games this year for sure.
Where the learning curve isn't too drastic, but it's really enjoyable to play.
What kind of games do you like?
So when I actually played it, I loved Minecraft, and when I actually play it, I love Minecraft. But I do like the platform bounce aroundy solve thingies, but I don't like it when it's massively complicated to play, which has kind of put me off playing Zelda, because I think I would
Breath of the Wild, or which one?
Any, because I think it would just
they're all different.
More recent ones.
I wouldn't consider them to be platformers.
No,
anyway,
I don't.
You have to play Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
It's one of the best games ever altogether.
I was worried you would say that, but
obviously you have to.
Is it difficult to play?
No, it's not.
Like, you're talking to me here.
Right? I don't know what that means.
It means I like simple, but the other game, I mean, Minecraft's not that simple. The other type of games.
And have you played Super Mario Odyssey?
No.
Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
You can start with Zelda Link's Awakening if you're too worried that but you have to play Breath of the Wild. You have to play it.
All right.
And the second one's coming out.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then the other type of game I like are puzzle games. I love Tetris, obviously, but
I'm
any
not
kind
sure
of
about
game
puzzle games on Switch. I don't really follow that much puzzle games.
Do you remember that old game called Clacks? Do you remember that game? Where you had tiles coming down a thing at you and you had to put them in stacks, and I used to love that game.
I played that. It doesn't ring a bell.
Davina's amazing at Tetris. Oh, wow.
Have you tried Textrix, the latest version, the craziest one with multiplayer? What is it called? Tetris 100?
Yeah.
That's
it's nuts. It's nuts.
I tried it once and I was like, "Wow, I think I'm gonna have some kind of epileptic
seizure."
I don't know what's going on. It's way too stressful for me. It's just like, anyway.
Yeah, we have to play that. But
I am right at the end of Ori and the Blind Forest, which is a Metroidvania platformer, quite tough. Not that long, but it's one of the most celebrated indie games. Really good, very beautiful, really beautiful game. Quite tough. I'm at the last scene, and it's like I had to give up really late at night on Thursday and say I'll try again next week. I can't do it.
I also used to.
It's one of those. There's multiple sequences where if you make one mistake, you're dead, and you have to start over and over and over again.
I know.
It's quite stressful music.
I used to also really like games like R-Type.
Yeah,
the shoot 'em up stuff. I used to like stuff like that. But I did discover on the Switch the old Super Nintendo games and the old games.
Yeah.
So Metroid is there, or some version of Metroid.
Yes, Metroid Dread. There's a new Metroid Dread that I got for Christmas, which is in the same style of the game that I'm playing right now. So I'll probably play something else in between. Well, I'm going to play Zelda's Link Awakening. I've not played it, and it's supposed to be quite easy for people who play games regularly. Okay. The other one I do highly recommend is, I'll tell you three. I mean, if you've not played Mario Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild, those are the two tentpoles, best games. I mean, it's just why about the Switch. Well, the year it came out and the two games came out and they were crowned the best games across all of everything.
Okay.
Zelda Breath of the Wild is a revolution. It's just so mind-blowing.
Okay.
And it changed the frame of a lot of games that inspired themselves from what they did afterwards.
Okay.
Including Elden Ring, that is like the big hit from last year. And the sequel to Breath of the Wild is coming out this year, and then the other one I do recommend, which I got back into for Christmas with my brother, which was so much fun, is Diablo 3. And the fourth one's Diablo 3. Have you ever played Diablo? Diablo?
No.
Awesome. You're gonna love it. This is addictive, but very addictive. And not
what
very
kind of game is it?
Diablo is you've never heard of Diablo?
No.
Diablo is a massive action RPG from Blizzard, and the fourth one's coming out this year and massively expected. But Diablo 3 is on the Switch. It's from 10 years ago. And you choose between, you have a set of different characters. You can choose from it's a medieval fantasy action RPG where you just like wander around and kill guys and find loot. It's awesome. It's really good, and it's not very difficult, and it's very the beginning is not very difficult. You can make it more difficult if you want, and you choose at the beginning your hero between a barbarian, a crusader, a sorcerer, etc.
Yeah.
I think there's the shaman or something like that, and there's the monk. There's a bunch of different characters. Each one has their own abilities, and there's as many, I think, as 10 or 12 different and
can you have like multiple players all on the same
yeah you can play together, which is awesome. We can play together online, but I think you need a subscription, which I don't have. But I played with my brother over Christmas on the same screen, which was so much fun.
I can imagine that's a lot of fun. Okay, I'll look at that. So Diablo 3, Super Mario Odyssey, and Breath of the Wild. Okay. All right. Thanks for the
if you want something a bit more like Minecraft, then I would say Stardew Valley is cool on the indie game.
I've heard about that one. Sales. And of course, I'm afraid to download Dead Cells on my phone.
Oh, Dead Cells, so good.
Because I know you've gone on about that.
You can get it on the Switch. On the Switch, I would play it. If you don't want it on your phone, get it on the Switch. There's probably sales at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Dead Cells is really good, or Hades, one or the other.
Is Dead Cells finished? Dead Cells is a platformer, isn't it?
Yeah, platformer, and it's a rogue style. What that means is you only have one life. You die, you come back from the beginning.
Ugh.
But what it is as you grow, and they call it playing those kinds of games. When you play, it's a run.
Yeah.
Because you play until you're dead, but you develop and earn new abilities that you do keep. So every time you start over again, you have more stuff.
Okay.
You try to get to the end of the game, and the game itself is a branching out. So each level has 2 or 3 other levels you can go to, and I still haven't gotten to the end, so I still don't know where it ends. But I have a lot more stuff, so I can go further every time and have a longer run. You can stop in the middle of the run if you want. You don't have to keep playing. You can stop in the middle and pick it up afterwards.
That sounds really good too.
But it's a very good game. It's really, really good.
Okay. Super Mario Odyssey it is. No, actually, Diablo 3. Maybe Davina will play it with me.
Oh yeah, that's fun. I mean, check it out. I'll send you a video. You could play together. And the positive of Breath of the Wild or Mario is, depending on how you like to play in Divina, I think they're also cool games to watch somebody else play, particularly Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And you could talk and play together and like, oh, you should do this, go there. It's so massive. It's huge.
Okay.
I want to play. I just got it back from my brother. I lent it to him for a few days, and I want to play it again. And I want to do the downloadable content that I never finished that part. I finished the game, but I still haven't finished. I haven't done all the additional bonus content, if you will. And the world is so big that you just wander around for a few hours and explore.
Well, the fact you said a few hours was worrying. But I could,
There's one time I hadn't played for a while and I got back into it. Yeah. And I thought, I'll just turn it back on. And then just to remember where I was and what I was doing. So one of the things in the game, for example, is you can pick up stuff, hunt animals, pick food, and then there's cooking pots, and you just throw stuff together and it makes something. And I spent 3 hours cooking. Just
hang on. You spent 3 hours cooking
in the video game.
In a game.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to do something with your culinary skills here.
Well, that was. I think cooking in Zelda is different from cooking in real life, but I agree with you. And that to that effect, there's also another big goal of which I haven't done last year at all, and I kept talking about it, is to have the kitchen be redone. Because my landlord is up for it, and then there's anyway. There's also plays into longer, bigger conversations about the future, including my relationship.
Yeah, well, that's what this conversation is about, the future, which is a good